Arven Zard dominated the Curitiba Regional Championships, and I think going into the 151 expansion, Charizard EX is receiving even more attention. We gain a 70 hit point Charmander, which makes us much more robust against Lost Zone archetypes, where the Sableye is still powerful, but slightly less effective, as the opponent is unable to take multiple knockouts in one turn via their Sableye. We also get an extra 10 hit points on Charmeleon, which is fine, I suppose, and I am choosing to play the 50 hit point Pidgey, and I think this is actually one of the big debates around the archetype right now, because this Pokemon has a much better attack in Call for Family, but loses 10 hit points, and it actually puts you back in that same situation against a Sableye player, where you have the 7 and 5 line up to make 120 for the Sableye. So playing this Pidgey actually counterbalances the 10 hit point buff that you would get from a Charmander, and many people are worried about the Lost Zone matchups and say that it makes this one unplayable. For me, I just want to play the game, and this is a deck that still really wants to go wide on the opening turns. We're playing Arven and Battle VIP Pass to do exactly that, because oftentimes you'll need multiple Charmander, sometimes multiple Pidgey down, as well as oftentimes even just putting an Entei V proactively down on the board means that if you are getting hit with Iono, you can draw into Forest Seal Stone naturally and still have a good turn too. So I really like going wide on the board. Obviously there are situations you need Manaphy down as well. So I like the Call for Family option, and I think the mentality is that if you haven't got that sort of turn 2 or at least turn 3 quick search, you're going to be in trouble anyway with this deck. And if the opponent gets a turn 2 Sableye and happens to go for the Pidgey Charmander, you just sort of say, kudos to you, you were able to do that somehow, even going first against me. You kind of just shrug and say they had the nuts. So that's my own personal opinion. I feel like gaining that extra 2 decent leads in the deck is pretty okay. Of course, if you do play the 60 hit point Pidgeys, there is still the Mysterious Tail Mew that you could retreat into to give yourself a punt towards Battle VIP Pass. So I also fully understand the 60 hit point route with this deck as well. It makes you a little bit more safeguarded throughout the entire game, and possibly even safeguards you around Echoing Horn. I think that's actually the real reason why I'm a little bit worried about the 50 hit point Pidgey, is that if there are going to be Turbo Lost Zone variants that are playing Echoing Horn, that's when they can punish the Charmander Pidgey combination. As of right now, though, not many Turbo lists are playing it. It sometimes features in the Kyogre builds, which is somewhat of a concern, but I feel like that's overall going to be something that you can manage, and you do at least have Super Rod in the deck list to try and make that less of a possibility for the opponent. Outside of that, I am literally just net decking the Brazilian list. I think it's an exceptional 60, but I have cut the Mawile. That's another contentious card. I've sort of gone over the thought process of Mawile personally, and figured that now that people have seen Mawile in some of the most popular deck lists to great success, there is definitely going to be a movement towards adding in switch outs, pennies, or just a general mentality shift when coming up against Charizard variants. Players may be much more cautious about putting down their Pokemon that could get trapped. So you're gaining value just from Mawile being possible, and other players probably are playing the Mawile because obviously it is a good option and was very successful in the regional 60s. But you gain a space. Now, I'm choosing to commit that space to a Vengeful Punch. This is kind of a niche card, but I do think you still need some percentage points into Gardy, and I think that Vengeful Punch does do this for you. I'm also just really happy to add extra tools to the deck, because you get massive diminishing returns from Arven as you progress through the game. After you've got your initial Forest Seal Stone, sure, Choice Belt's going to be an important one to pick up here and there, but the Vengeful Punch is just another flexible option that you can find lots of different spots for. I've tried to weave it in early game against Chien-Paos and maybe put them off getting an early one prize knockout, for example. You can also try and weave it into the mirror match, force the opponent to use their quick search on a Lost Vacuum rather than some Power Spike supporter cards. So the Vengeful Punch has just been useful enough for me right now. But if you do want to convert this into an extra Nest Ball, an extra Lost City, an extra supporter card, all of these things sound really reasonable as well. So essentially do what you want with your Mawile space now that I feel like it's less mandatory to play it. Another potential talking point is what other fire Pokemon we could be putting into the deck list to make the most of Charizard EX's ability, and Delphox is one that comes to mind, especially because Gardevoir players may not want to put down their water Pokemon in case you Mawile them, so playing a Delphox in your deck means you can punish the fact that there's no Manaphy on their board, so suddenly you can be taking multi-prize knockouts with the magical fire of Delphox, most importantly, trying to take out multiple Rolts in a turn. We're playing Lost City, so removing them from play entirely can really limit your opponent's options throughout the game and hurt their draw power immensely. I also think, once again, because this card hasn't shown up in many Charizard builds as of late, it gets lots of value. Not many people are going to proactively put down Manaphy against you, so the Delphox can get in there on that turn 2 and really cause havoc on certain board states. The other tool card I'm really considering is going to be Vitality Band. Giving yourself that +10 is so vital for a couple of crucial thresholds. Firstly, after the opponent has taken one prize card, it now allows Charizard to hit 220, which is really important into the Chien-Pao matchup and can sometimes come up against Miraidon players. But also that key threshold of hitting 270, so pushing yourself with the Vit Band up to 280, yes, helps you out against the V-Star matchups, but we're already playing the Choice Belt to help out in that regard, but you are then also able to hit 280 in the mirror match into opposing Pidgeots, which is a really crucial way for you to keep on your even prize trade throughout the game. Overall though, I have been impressed with this archetype. Obviously we have great type coverage, we can be bullying these Mew VMAX players. We have enough consistency with this Arven package plus Forest Seal Stone and the Mysterious Tail from Mew to help us pick up items throughout the game, and of course Quick Search is one of the most busted abilities we can have in the game once that's up and running. So that's Charizard. Enjoy the games. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. So our opponent gets to go first in this game 1, and it's always really nice when you're going second to have this call for family. It's already coming in clutch here, because it might mean that we even get to hold on to Arven for turn 2 so that we can have rare candy opportunities here. So that's already looking really good that we have the call for family option. We're up against Miraidon. They're getting into the game as you'd expect. They're going to get Raikou, and they're also going to generate here. And generate again, actually. And we actually ripped the VIP pass, so our hand really opens up. And I really think that gives us license to hold Arven for turn 2, probably. Let's have a look, make sure that our Forest Seal Stones are in deck. And otherwise, looking pretty good here. We can go full board. You have 230 hit points on the Entei, so you are allowed to do this against Miraidon players quite happily. Especially when their board is full and there's no Zapdos from Pokemon Go in sight. So you will just get the Mew developed as well as that secondary Pidgey. We're going to get roped straight away. Opponent can fleet-footed. And they rip the research, so pretty decent turn 1 and 2 for them. They are probably just taking a single prize knockout here. They do have the Forest Seal Stone though. Wonder what they'll grab from this. Path would be quite scary. Yeah, it is going to be a path build, so there you go. Pretty much everything that you'd want. You've started to pressurize the prize race, but you've also put the Path to the Peak in play. The Rare Candy's a really nice top deck. So Mysterious Tail, wow, it opens up our hand even more there. I think either Ultra Ball or Candy or Vacuum all would have been good there, actually, from the Mew. So that we could unlock this hand that little bit more. And yeah, the top deck plus Mysterious Tail both hitting means we're going to have a really exceptional turn here. We can get double Rare Candy response on this Raikou. Even under the path, which is insane. So yeah, we can get the Lizard out. Yep, so double stage 2s are online. Pretty insane. I'm going to power up the Entei here and get a ton attachment on the Charizard by the looks of things. We even pick up Iono for next turn. That's looking pretty naughty. Entei, pretty chunky guy. That 230 hit points can be frustrating. Sometimes there is going to be a Zapdos in these deck lists. But if they don't, they have to have a really inefficient Raichu, by the looks of things, to get through the sky. And that's going to really put a strain on resources for them. They do hit off the double generator 2 energy, which is huge. Oh wow, and then they hit the 5th. So they are going to be able to get through the Entei here. Really big turn from the opponent to bounce back here. We are going to see the Dynamotor. another path as well. So they've done pretty much everything they could do there. A big Raichu knockout. And they actually get to keep energy in play as well, which is pretty insane. We once again just naturally have a vacuum in hand, which is pretty naughty. We already top decked the fire as well, so Charizard is unscathed. I'm just going to go for the Iono for the refresh on our end. And we can quick search here if we want to. We have the knockout already lined up. There are quite a few generators down. So I feel like this Zard is looking like it's in a pretty good position. My only concern would be that if the Pidgeot gets knocked out, we could just fall prey to runner on a boss, basically, from the opponent. There was an argument there to just Pidgeot proactively for Iono, in case the opponent did have boss for our Pidge. As it happens, we do pick up Ultra Ball, so I could be going Ultra Ball Lumineon for hand disruption if the opponent does have boss this turn. We see the Raichu come down, plus the attachment. They do Iono us into pretty much nothing. We don't have boss in hand, but we do have Pidgeot currently online. And the opponent has no way around the Charizard. They needed boss on our Pidgeot to make things uncomfortable, really. And that just wasn't coming together. So a nice win against Miraidon. That should be one of our better ones, I would say. We just have very high threshold of hit points, and they have a low threshold of hit points. We get to go first into Chien-Pao. This is actually a really important matchup to go first in, because this is one of our weakest matchups. So at least getting to go first is nice. Oh yeah, PTCG Live chooses not to work sometimes, so I'm not able to get the Pidgey that I really want. I have Pidgeot in hand. So thanks, PTCGL. You are awful. Let's Ultra Ball for the Pidgey instead, and lose a Fire Energy for no reason. And pass things over. Ridiculous. PTCG still taking L's. There's the Shivery Chill into the Irida, so our opponent's got a pretty good start themselves here. They're going to get Frigibax and Candy for next turn. So their hand is really good, right? They must, yeah, already have Battle VIP Pass for double Bidoof. Definitely scary board state from them. They can get an attachment in onto their Chien-Pao. They are currently sat out of range of Entei by leaving that one last board space open. So that's good play from them. We can obviously Candy Pidge here, and we fleet-footed first to get the second Candy, which is a huge draw. Which means I could even go for possibly like a rope play this turn to give ourselves a meaningful knockout from the quick search. And it also means I can have Entei chilling on the bench for another turn, which is slightly preferable. There's no real point in me trying to two-shot this Chien-Pao. If I can go around it for a couple turns and then one-shot it later, it's going to be more efficient that way. So the rope was really handy here. We will be able to take out the Frigi and initiate our prize race at least. So we've gone one up for now. We know they have Candy Backs in hand already. They actually already reload the Frigibacks. It's always important for them to get the next one down. Going to see the Super Cold, then the Pokestop into Iono. I'm surprised they didn't Shivery Chill first there. I feel like they probably should have Shivery Chilled both out and just Super Colded even more, because they really need to draw into the Frigi. But either way, they do find Nest Ball for the backup here. They hit all three from the Pokestop. That's what you'd like to see. 3 items. And they are able to reach the 6 by the looks of things. Oh, possibly they didn't Shivery Chill because they needed to hit one more energy right off the Iono. So yeah, that does make sense. But they did also need to hit the Frigiback. They needed both. So anyway, they do hit both. So they are able to immediately respond on the Charizard, which is pretty powerful. And they've continued to stay out of range of Entei. The Iono was pretty kind to us. We got straight into Candy Zard, which is pretty busted. We also have Radzard now as well, and with 2 energy in the deck, I can just go for the Combustion Blast play here to try and offset this prize race quite early on. And if I do this turn, especially, I think that's really important, right? Because I want to Iono them before they have the big barrels down. and make it really hard for them to respond on a 2-prize Pokemon this turn. I'm taking a knockout with a single prizer, I'm throwing their hand to a low size before Big Barrel's developed, and I'm hoping this gives us a good window of opportunity to make life difficult for the opponent. I am holding off putting any other basic Pokemon down. I don't want to give the opponent the easy Greninja for 2 prizes, because Radiant Charizard's weak to water. So, I'm just going to hold everything. The opponent was Iono'd into Ultra Ball, which is one of their biggest draws here, actually, to get into Big Barrel to stay in this game. They did have to put down a Chien-Pao, though, so if they don't get a Cross-Switcher play this turn, we should actually be pretty set with our prize map. We should be winning a prize race here if they're unable to go through a 2-prizer on our bench. The Entei would be the easiest and most in-range Pokemon, and it's currently holding a Forest Seal Stone. They're going to Superior some waters back. Just having a quick look of resources. Seems that they discarded a Candy there. I think they still have 1 left in their deck. They're just going to Super Cold some more. And they are forced to Hail Blade through the active, which is really nice for us. We were able to take fire from prizes. So I can just manually attach for the response KO this turn. We are Pokestopping just because we have pretty much everything we need in the... Like, there was nothing that important in the deck. The Penny was actually a little bit annoying to discard there from Pokestop. That would have been quite nice, to be honest with you. But we did hit the Rod, and that possibly would have been something that I either Arvened or Quick Searched for there. So I'm pretty happy that I didn't have to spend the Arven on that. We actually really don't have many good cards left in deck to Arven. I'm probably just going to take this Vacuum to deny it from our opponents. There's also an argument to not get rid of the Pokestop, depending on how many they have played already, because it could be an extra -1 from their hand, actually. So I probably should have checked that before using this Vacuum. But their deck is still fairly fat, so maybe it's a decent shout. And then we just have the Quick Search again. Nothing is actually that helpful to us. I'm thinking of taking Manaphy here, just because there is this strange outsider chance that because I only have 2 Fire Energy left, the opponent could do some weird shenanigans where they trap Entei for a turn. And if they like hit Entei with a Greninja for 180, then go for Cross-Switcher cancelling Cologne on the Manaphy, that would be their 2-turn map to beat us here. That's the only way we can lose this game. So they already have gone down a cancelling Cologne, so I'm hoping that if they only play 1 copy, they can't make that line happen. I think that's literally the only way we lose now, because we're at 1 prize card left, we have Quick Search on board, Chien-Pao never has that sort of disruption, and I still have the Forest Seal Stone, so I'm really well set. I think if I Forest Seal Stone for Charmander there, I never lose, because I really don't mind them cancelling Coloning Manaphy plus Charmander that turn. I just have win on board. So I probably should have forested for Charmander, because then they can't even do a trapping play on anything. So that would have been the optimal play, actually. Forest Seal Stone for Charmander was our best line there, to never lose, and to basically always win next turn. So they do have the Cross-Switcher play. This would be the only way they win, but they actually don't power up a Moonlight Shuriken, so we're going to be pretty okay here just to close out the game. We did recycle enough Fire Energy that it's not going to be a problem for us. So I can just attach it active, and that should be pretty much everything for the opponent. But yeah, if they had done the Cross-Switcher into another double Cross-Switcher, Cologne the Manaphy, double Entei and Manaphy KO, that would have been a really sick line of play, but it didn't line up for the opponent in the end. But Chien-Pao's a really hard matchup, so happy to take a win there. I have taken the most amount of L's to Chien-Pao today on the ladder, that's for sure. I think I've lost to like 3 of them and did beat 1. However, we're staring down a Deoxys now in this game 3, and then we see the Mew. So this is the kind of the matchup you rub your hands when you see it, because it's a really solid matchup for you. We do have a ton of path bounces, and that's really the only defense the Mew player has. We have the 4 Arven, the 2 Vacuum, so that's 6 outs plus the 2 Stadiums is 8. So that's a really good amount of times that you'll just have a bounce in the hand, which is awesome. And it really doesn't take much. Like, sometimes you only need to use one Charizard EX the whole game. Sometimes it takes two, but yeah, it's pretty good. And our hand is also pretty good as well, because I'm holding on to Candy Zard and Vacuum in hand. So I'm pretty content. The opponent's had a good turn, and they are able to bank a Forest Seal Stone for next turn as well. So they've done pretty much everything they can do for their turn one. We even pick up Lost City for the turn, which means I'm definitely going Arven here just for VIP pass. That's all I need to do this turn, and just hold everything. Get a forest that we can hold in hand. Don't want to proactively forest against a Mew player, because as we know, they can play a heavy count of vacuums. Just the one Pidge, but pretty okay with that. We'll just hold everything. So the opponent probably wants to go for either Judge Path, and they've straight away sparkled, so that's off the table, or it would be like Boss Lumineon KO and also Path, because they've seen us take the Forest Hill Stone, right? So denying that option whilst taking a 2-prize knockout would be pretty good for their race. But with the Sparkle, we get to hold an amazing hand here. And that's going to be good. The opponent's going to recycle their boss that they thinned just so they can draw more with this second Genesect. Gonna see the Oh, they're gonna Forest Hill Stone for the Path. Okay, they're setting their stall out that now's the time to try and do it. I think they could even have retreated into their DTE. Oh no, they didn't play any tablets. That's why. Okay. But they could have crossed Fusion Max Miracle and protected these Fusion Energy. Anyway, either way, we do have the Candy Pidge into Quick Search Charizard pre-supporter, which is pretty disgusting. So yeah, our hand was really well set there. I can even bank an energy onto a Charmander now, which again is just pretty gross, because it means that even if our opponent has future paths, I can just manually attach to a Charizard and get the game over and done with. We're going to proactively get rid of this Entei and just get into a Charmeleon. So again, I need even less pieces going into a future turn. I'm going to also attach to the Charmeleon. Yeah, I mean, we need so little to see out this game now. We were able to take out the Fusion Energy as well, which is pretty amazing. So the opponent doesn't have powerful Meloetta plays to try and offset this prize race. They can try and do some Psychic Leak shenanigans, but it's really not doing meaningful enough damage for the Charizard. Even if they're throwing up single and whatever prize card Pokemon, we're still going to get over the line at this stage, I think. Like, already the game is really thrust into the late game after just one attack. We do saw a Meloetta come down into the Fusion Strike system. There is the Path and the Judge. So they're at least trying to make things a little bit trickier for us. And we've drawn into Charizard, which means I basically have no worries anymore. I certainly could play the Arven there just to get a vacuum banked into the hand, but I'm really not under like prize pressure to do that, so I'm just going to hold all the resources for now. Even just keeping the Path in play might make our opponent's turn just much more awkward here as well. They do DT and Judge, and they do find VMAX, so that's at least something. And also Ultra Ball, so they can leap again here, which is the only thing they can do to not lose on board. They have to go into the Meloetta. But again, they haven't taken prize cards. It's the same issue. So I'm just going to swing with Burning Darkness again. If I'm playing religiously there, I attach the Forest Seal Stone to something, but I really don't think it's going to make a huge difference now. With double Charizard developed and just one prize card to take, they can't really do anything there. So yeah, Mew, as long as you have the bounces, is pretty good. We're up against a Gardevoir next. They start with Zacian. They have a VIP pass to get things going. Looking pretty solid. Couple of Rolts. See the Fog for the third Rolts. And okay, they're getting pretty aggressive. They have the turn attachment Roar play to start powering up Storm Slash for next turn. A little bit scary. We have a VIP open as well as this Lumineon. I'm going to fleet-footed first just to see what it can offer us, because we do want to get even more basics into the mix here. We're going to Luminous Sign for the Arven, and then we're going to VIP out a couple Charmander. And then we're going to do the classic second VIP plus bank the Forest Seal Stone for turn 2 here. It's an interesting one because Gardy has a couple lines here. If they candy and knock out the active, then I lose the Forest Seal Stone if I put it there. They can actually Storm Slash and KO the Lumineon as well this turn. So, or they could collapse Stadium and I would have to get rid of the fish. So I didn't want to commit the Forest Seal Stone. And it does get Iono'd away, but it's fine. One of these V Pokemon is probably going to stick around this turn for us. The opponent actually gets rid of a Gardy EX there with Ultra Ball, just to possibly refine some more cards. Yeah, going to be another Curlier. But you see the turn attachment, so they actually just Storm Slash and choose not to refine with their second Curlier, which is interesting. We have drawn into Candy, which is cool. So we can get Forest Candy now, and then Forest for Pidge, then Pidge for the Zard, and suddenly we're in the mix. But they've kept their bench limited enough that the Entei won't be taking a knockout here, so they've at least made our prize map difficult here. Let's make the Zard. There was a slightly more aggressive line I could have gone for here and just ignored the Pidgeot altogether and then just gone straight for Zard plus Rope, right? But just developing the engine is definitely reasonable here. I'm debating this floating attachment. It's a bit of an interesting one because I can actually use Pidgey to offset the prizes on this Zacian if they are forced to use Gardy EX to power it up any further. And that's because I have the Vengeful Punch. So Vengeful Punch is blocking them attacking into Entei with Zacian here. But also, the other easy 2-prize knockout for them is the Lumineon. And if they put just 20 more damage on the Zacian via Gardy EX here, I can actually come in and tackle with Pidgey to finish that guy off. So, bit of a niche play here, because of course they could just turn attach and boss the fish as well. But as we know, Gardy likes to throw as many energy in the bin as possible as they go. So we'll see how it plays out. Doesn't always come up. I can always just manually attach this Charizard later if I have to. But the Vengeful Punch is already pressurizing the Zacian. It would be a beneficial exchange for him to attack into us right now. This is exactly why it's in the deck. It's causing the opponent a headache straight away of having to get around this. And also, because I've put it on Entei, there is a world where I penny up Entei later on if it is gusted around. So the opponent does have the boss's orders, and they are going to embrace this Zacian to have just 20 left. So the Pidgey line of play that I identified last turn is actually open for business. And I feel like it's a good play this turn. Try and force the opponent to have boss again next turn to do anything super meaningful. We have some interesting lines available to us. I'm actually going to go for the fleet-footed first here before deciding what I want to do. And it is going to be the Penny Pidgey play after all that. I also have to debate a Vengeful Punch. Pidgeot is the easiest thing to knock out, but I'll probably have to attack with the Charizard at some point as well. So I'm just going to hold the punch for later and see if there's a better time that I can try and use it. We do get the Charizard off prizes, which is fine. So with a boss already down for the opponent, it might be difficult for them to get around this Pidgey this turn. And if that's the case, it's a great way for us to try and put ourselves on a more on an easier prize map so that I could chase down this Gardevoir EX this turn. The threat of Mawile is also making it more difficult for our opponent to line up Collapse Stadium plays as well, because the main Pokemon that they would have to put into play here to fill up their board would be the likes of Greninja and Manaphy and even Lumineon. These sorts of things the opponent may be dissuaded from using because of the potential Mawile trap plays if the opponent doesn't play a Penny. They do simply Iono us here. And let's see how they're going to go about this. Yeah, they can't Gust, so they're going to go for a Moonglow play. Definitely seems reasonable. Pidgey's done its job, for sure. They're just going to take out the Charmander. Definitely makes sense. We can actually use Artisan, which is pretty nice. We can just get our Charmander recovered. And we're going to go into Lizard and certainly boss KO the Gardevoir EX here. There's no doubt about that. I'm also going to get rid of VIP and Lost City. I'm just going to cherry pick the Mew at this stage. Because it's fairly... Well, I mean, it's reasonable for the opponent to Brainwave KO our Charizard next turn. And if they do it with an Iono as well, we still need a lot next turn, right? To still take a 2-prize knockout. We would have to have Candy Zard boss, and that's a lot of stuff. So the opponent still has a lot to do this turn. They have 1 Refinement, 1 Arcana, and possibly an Iono to 3 cards for them to be as safe as possible to actually close out this game. But our hand is actually quite trash, so they don't even need to Iono us. If they just make a Gardevoir EX here and find Reversal, which they haven't played yet, they can respond on this Charizard. And if they're doing that, we actually still have a pretty tricky turn ahead of us. It would essentially be us going for Pidgeot for Iono ourselves and trying to respond on the heavily damaged Shining Arcana. We would be checkmating them if we had a Vengeful Punch right now. If the Vengeful was on this Charizard, actually, the opponent could take this one, like, they would take the knockout, but they'd knock themselves out with the amount of damage, and we could just knock out anything coming back into our turn, so... although Quick Search actually doesn't win us the game outright, we still would rely on Mysterious Tail. As it happens, they choose not to put the EX into play, or they didn't have access to it, or definitely didn't have the full combo, and just have to hit us this turn, which means I basically have no worries at this point in the game. We shouldn't ever really be losing at this stage. Being given that free turn is just so broken. We're going to Ultra Ball some dead weights away. Just grab our Charmeleon so I don't require candy combos on a future turn. Also going to reload Lumineon and a couple energy. And we'll take our single prize knockout. Now the opponent has a really easy way to knock out this Charizard, but they have left themselves with... Well, it's too easy for us to take another knockout, right? That's the key issue here. Whatever they attack our Charizard with, we can just make another Charizard and get through them. So the crucial turn was the previous one, where if they can go Reversal Energy, use Gardevoir EX, and take that big knockout, they would lose on the spot to Candy Zard boss, but that's a big combo, even with Quick Search. So as we can see, the matchup's not that good for us. We went second in this one, and I couldn't get Vengeful activation. It did make the opponent play differently, but because I didn't actually get the activation, it was still a little bit dicey. But you could have seen in last turn, if there was a Vengeful in the same spot, it would really drastically change the opponent's plays. The opponent's going to go for a Panic Boss by the looks of things. Charmeleon has a 2 retreat cost, so they're just hoping that I don't have enough fire energy to... power up the next Zard. which we do, so no issues there. Plenty of fire left to just take our last prize card. Wasn't the easiest prize map, but we did get there in the end. So that's Charizard. Some good games today. I actually really enjoyed playing on the ladder. I had a couple more bricky hands than I'd expected, but most of my bricks actually came up against Chien-Pao anyway, so that was kind of fine, because the matchup is so hideously against you. Let me know your thoughts on Arven Zard down below. Do you think it's going to be a very tippy-top contender in the next few regionals, or is the meta going to start warping around it, where we possibly see still a decent amount of Giratina around, as well as maybe some Chien-Paos? They've been popular on the ladder, so keep your eye out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.